It's been a minute, huh? Good to be back on this topic. Welcome, ladies and animals, to what is now our 6th escapade into the world of various punk subgenres. We've covered diesel punk, biopunk, demon punk, Lego punk, atomic punk, and now finally today, as you could probably tell by the title, Solarpunk. All our previous ones will be linked down below in a playlist, if you want to catch up on where we've been through so far. As far as the others go, aside from Lego punk, Solarpunk is very unique in the way that it approaches the idea of punk, compared to the rest. Most often when we think of punk, it's acting in rebellion to some domineering power structure. Whether that structure belongs to corporations, religion, the Nazis, or anything else, there's something we rebel against. Whereas in Solarpunk, the counterculture we see here is rather an optimistic look into our future, rather than a sci-fi reflection on our past. With Cyberpunk, we have a series of worlds that changed forever from the 80s and begin to descend into the dystopian takeover of corporations, or where steampunk starts in the Victorian Age and develops from there. Most atom punk is stuck in the 50s and 60s, but Solarpunk hasn't happened yet. Of course, none of these have happened, but what I mean by that is the idea of Solarpunk is speculative. It's not a message of if-then, it's more so an idea of maybe if. Asking what we can change in our own real future in a way that protects the world around us while advancing the technology that we currently use. Rather than relying on harmful fuels that spew hundreds of trillions of pollutants into the air, corporations that put profit ahead of human lives, or alternate histories where we go all in on nuclear energy to the point of a nuclear winter, Solarpunk asks something of us. It asks us the idea of what if? What if we relied more so on clean green energy? On solar, on wind, on hydro, on fusion, and all of that up to the 11th degree. Rather than a harmful world that might have happened, it shows us a world that could happen. The term itself was coined in 2008. The beluga sky sails inspired an anonymous author to write about a future where we use renewable energies to fuel our society. Taking this speculative technology of steampunk and applying it to a very do-it-yourself homestead type living of setting, and with this blog entry, From Steampunk to Solarpunk, the genre was born. Think of high-tech and cyberpunk, but rather than taking today's rampant overuse of capitalist overproduction and redundant consumption, Solarpunk sees a future where people live in tandem with nature, not unlike the feudal homesteads of the colonial period, where windmills, small farms, and local livestock are kept simply to keep humanity going in a peaceful coexistence with nature, rather than the non-stop cutting, consuming, and rejection of it we see often in the modern day. A world where people live off exactly what they need, rather than requiring loads more for the pedantic sake of just having it. As a newer artistic movement, there's very few examples of Solarpunk, at least those that are intentional. There's stuff like this Chobani yogurt ad, but most examples we see are stories that will have the Solarpunk title retroactively applied to them. Grabbing onto the idea of reused and green technology, Solarpunk focuses mostly on minimalist but also optimistic ideas to use technology in tandem with classical ideas of living off the land. Digital tech that makes life more convenient without coming at the cost of our world, unethical labor, or consumption of things around us. The genre on a whole is very focused on optimism. Specifically with the rejection of pessimism found across many fictional stories up to and past the 2010s that were oh so prevalent. In the way that Cyberpunk is incredibly harsh in its depiction of late-stage capitalism, Solarpunk attempts to be kind and uplifting of all individuals living on their own, separate from a larger system that often leaves hundreds by the wayside. Where Cyberpunk attacks specific entities in a system, the corporations, Solarpunk acts as a foil that attacks the foundations of our system itself. Cyberpunk has an issue with the corporations. It's not necessarily anti-capitalist. Cyberpunk is a warning, whereas Solarpunk is a promise. Its main focus is on useful technology, things that serve a definitive purpose and help make life easier, with a focus on egalitarianisms and equality for people of all kinds, living in smaller ecological villages that provide and survive on their own, rather than the tumorous existences of others in a setting like Dieselpunk, lacking redundant things like supercars, private planes, yachts, overexpensive consumerist watches, subscription services, overpriced lattes, and all things that are peddled our way, a $130 stylus, or endless smart devices that serve the primary function of collecting your data and selling it for profit. Solarpunk has none of this. Everything serves some purpose that works to better our lives. Windmills with targeting software that allow them to turn and keep the maximum efficiency going. Waterways and intricate systems of bridges, rivers, and dams that work to keep the landscape balanced for the region that they inhabit. The humans who built it, and the animals that live there. Ideas like the very real nature bridges. If you haven't seen these, it's essentially a raised bridge that connects forests over the top of interstate highways, allowing all sorts of animals, from deer and bears, to gophers and squirrels, to cross human infrastructure while also keeping them safe from harm. And if you've ever driven on a highway in a wooded area, you'll know just how dangerous something as simple as a morning commute can be for the animals around us. In short, the punk of Solarpunk's design is aggressive kindness. As I said before, there's not a lot of examples to point towards as far as Solarpunk. Some small titles like Slime Rancher that feel like it's going in the right direction, but you never outwardly get there. Most of Solarpunk is throwing away the establishment as we know it for smaller, more intimate communities founded on the caring of life and nature in general, and applying high tech to make life even better, not something common in film, movies, or even most novels. Something you'll notice whenever looking into Solarpunk, and a big thing I came to realize while working on this video, is that each genre has a defining anchor that you can point to and go, Lord of the Rings, that's fantasy. Dune, that's sci-fi. Warhammer, that's grimdark. Neuromancer, that's cyberpunk. Fallout, atomic punk. For Solarpunk, what is the defining and most striking piece of media that defines the genre? This Greek yogurt ad for the Chobani company that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, awesome, I know. Unfortunately, as such a new idea, we just don't have a lot of these ideas or stories that self-identify as Solarpunk outside of things we may retroactively apply the label onto, like say WALL-E. With all of this out there though, I want to ask you what you think of Solarpunk. In the many comments of my other punk breakdowns, it seems people are incredibly interested in Solarpunk or entirely against it, with lots of people even crying out about the label punk being applied to it. Honestly, I think it applies. I understand the discussion of punk getting watered down to mean a general aesthetic, but with Solarpunk, it is inherently radical and anti-establishment in the message it pushes, even if it is much kinder and more positive than others in the space. You don't need to be an anarchist with a Molotov in hand to be a punk. And with that, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you thought down below, leave a like and subscribe if you've liked this and want even more. Remember to stay cool, have fun, and be awesome. Buster out.